In the land of Amuaka, where the trees whispered secrets to the wind and the earth held memories in silence, a love once bloomed that would shake the balance between the living and the dead. The village stirred to life each morning with the rhythm of pounding yam, the clatter of calabashes, and the songs of women returning from the stream. Red clay huts lined the narrow paths, and ancestors watched quietly from shrines, veiled in smoke and silence. In this place of beauty and tradition, Obinna, the only son of the village chief, carried a heart far heavier than his noble birthright. He saw her first by the river, Amara, the daughter of a poor palm wine tapper. She danced in the shallow waters, her feet barely touching the earth, her laughter bright and unruly. Her waist beads shimmered like stars against her dark skin, and her eyes held a storm that pulled Obinna in with no chance of escape. He should have turned away. He should have remembered the oracle's decree. But love does not listen to warnings. Years before, when Obinna was still a boy, the oracle had cast the sacred kola nuts and declared him bound by fate to Adore, daughter of Elder Naji. The union was to be a blessing for the village, two powerful bloodlines merging, as the gods had willed. A bride price was accepted. Libations were poured. Songs were sung in anticipation. Obinna's future was sealed long before he could speak of love. But when he stood by the river, watching Amara move like the wind through water, all those vows became echoes too distant to obey. He tried to fight it. He avoided the river, turned his gaze at festivals, filled his mouth with silence whenever her name passed through the air. But the heart cannot be buried for long. One night, as the moon hung like a witness in the sky, he found his way to her compound. He whispered her name through the reed fence, and when she emerged, eyes wide with surprise, he said only, "Marry me." Her breath caught. The world stood still, and in a voice barely louder than the crickets in the bush, she answered, "Yes." But fate had not finished its game. Just weeks before the grand wedding to Adore, the village awoke to the sound of a woman's scream. Adore was found near the sacred grove, her skin cold, her body lifeless, a serpent coiled beside her.
Some said it was the gods' doing.
Others whispered of jealousy, of curses, of unseen hands. The elders declared her death a tragedy and ordered her buried with honor. The oracle remained silent. While the village mourned, Obinna and Amara wedded in secret beneath the old Irako tree. With only the night as their witness, they tied the red cloth and shared the sacred wine. Their fingers touched, their lips met, and for a moment, all was peace. But peace is a fragile thing. That night, as the villagers slept, the wind carried with it the sound of footsteps not born of the living. Somewhere beyond the veil, Adore's eyes opened. She rose from the land that had buried her. Not in flesh, but in spirit. Her heart no longer beat, but her fury lived on. From that night, strange things began to happen. The river overflowed though no rain had fallen. Chickens laid eggs filled with ash. And Amara, once full of laughter and light, began to fade. She woke each night drenched in sweat, her dreams haunted by a veiled woman standing at the foot of her bed. Obinna searched for answers, and when none came, he turned to the Dibia. The old man cast his cowries, read the shadows, and whispered in horror, "The bride has returned. The vow was broken, and the spirit walks." Amara's condition worsened. Her skin turned pale, her eyes sunken. At times, she spoke in voices not her own. Mirrors cracked in her presence. The household grew cold even under the sun. No offering could calm Adore. No prayer could quiet her fury. So Obinna, desperate and broken, went alone to her grave at dawn. He knelt in the soil that still remembered her name. Tears stained his cheeks as he begged, "Take me. Let her live. Let my love walk this earth, even if I must wander without name." The earth answered with silence. Then a breeze blew gently, and from the mist, she emerged. Adore, dressed in white, her veil flowing like water, stood above him. She reached forward and touched his forehead. There was no pain, only emptiness. And in that moment, Adore did not take his life. She took his memory. When Obinna returned to the village, no one remembered him, not even his father, not the children he had grown beside, not the Dibia who had named his fate. It was as though he had never existed. Only Amara remembered. She wept for him each morning beneath the Udala tree, clutching the red cloth from their wedding night. Her belly swelled with their unborn child, and her heart carried the weight of his name. Sometimes, when the moonlight touched the compound just right, she could see him, standing in the mist, just beyond the reach of light, watching, waiting. And sometimes, on the night of a wedding, villagers swore they saw a woman in white drifting through the trees, her veil trailing behind her like a question unanswered. They say she comes to those who break vows. They say she still waits for the promise she was denied. Because in Amuaka, love does not die. It transforms. It haunts. It becomes legend.